there, and welcome to That Shakespeare Life. This is the channel where we go behind the curtain and into the real life and history of William Shakespeare to find out what it was like to live in turn of the 17th century England the way Shakespeare would have lived it. If you like Shakespeare and you like history, then this is the place for you. Hit that like and subscribe button because we're here every week. This week, we're going to take a look at curse words from Shakespeare's lifetime. Of course, there were offensive words, but what exactly were they? Were they the same as the bad words that we have today? Let's find out right now on That Shakespeare Life. When it comes to Shakespeare, you may have heard things like Zounds or God's blood. And these were expletive phrases for the 16th century, defined by the Church of England as being offensive, along with a whole host of other religious terms that were considered an abusive use of language for Shakespeare's lifetime. However, religious terms were far from the only ways to say bad words in Elizabethan England, and even in Shakespeare's plays, we see a lot of examples of words that constituted bad language for William Shakespeare. To explore the history of curse words and define which words were the most repugnant for the 16th and 17th century, we sat down with Jesse Sheidlower, who has written an entire book on the history of the F word in particular, and here's what he had to say.
Well, many of the common words were in use back then, one way or another. Terms that all of the God-related words are one category, including damn and using God's name. The F word, the C word, which Shakespeare, again, effectively spells out in Twelfth Night. And French versions of this as well. French versions of the F word and C word. In Henry V, he uses in a way that makes it clear that these were considered extremely offensive in French. Terms like bastard, terms that insult people's parentage, which now are considered extremely or relatively mild expletives, back then were considered much more offensive. When you get into the 17th century, these would have often been spelled with dashes, the same way that stronger words are.
When it comes to the foundations of foul language, there is a colorful linguistic history to explore, which you can take a short jaunt through in our entire podcast with Jesse, where we look at the F word as John Florio used it in 1598, as well as offensive words Shakespeare alludes to in his works, but never actually says because they were just that bad. We also take a look at the one word that could get you in a whole lot of hot water with the Church of England really quickly. Learn all these things when you listen to our podcast right now at cassidycash.com/episode 280. If you'd like to see more in-depth history on this topic, including some pictures and archival information related to the 1598 dictionary and other demonstrations of the uses of bad language for Shakespeare's lifetime, then be sure to hit the Become a Patron button on the podcast page when you sign in as a patron, either using your credentials because you're already a supporter of our show, or if you use that button to join us as a patron. All of the bonus content expands right there on the show notes page, specifically for patrons. So make sure to check that out if you'd like a little more of the in-depth history behind our conversation. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Cassidy Cash, and I hope you learned something new about the Bard. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.